Caroline Isaacs is program director of the American Friends Service Committee Arizona office. Her office has been following closely the push to privatization.
The governor proposed, well, originally it was a proposal for 5,000 private prison beds. A couple of years ago, that was the RFP that was issued. The Department of Corrections pulled that last year because our prison population is declining. We have had negative growth and actually had a decrease in the number of people that are in our state prisons. So the argument that we need 5,000 beds really didn't hold water. So they pulled that RFP. They reissued it for 2,000 beds. And this was the governor's, one of her big issues in the state budget. She had to have those beds. And she also proposed 500 maximum security beds that would be run and operated by the state. Fortunately, they don't want to privatize the Supermax, so that's some good news, although we don't need those beds either.
Isaacs questions the move to add more prison beds, and she points to statistics provided by the Department of Corrections and the governor's summary executive budget report that actually suggest crime rates are declining and are, quote, at an all-time low.
In Arizona, we currently have 5 state prisons that are run by for-profit corporations housing state prisoners. We also, in Arizona, have 6 what we call spec prisons, speculative prisons. So those are set up by the private corporations, but they don't contract with the state of Arizona. They don't take any of our prisoners. They just set up shop in Arizona and then import prisoners from other places, most notably the federal government, ICE immigration detainees, and other states like Hawaii, California that have overcrowding problems.
Isaac's organization also cites data that specifically discredits the claim that prisons are saving money.
So the DOC has been doing these cost assessments since 2005. We looked at their numbers and basically calculated that from 2008 to 2010, we overspent by $10 million on the private prisons that we have in this state.
A $10 million loss for taxpayers signifies an important profit for private industry. Isaacs asks, should the penal system be run by corporations that are open for business?
And so essentially, the profit motive is basically at odds with what we think of as the purpose of a correctional institution, which is to correct behavior, right? Correct meaning reduce crime, reduce recidivism, and see that people do not return. Well, if they don't return and your bottom line is dependent on filling beds, many of these contracts stipulate 97% occupancy. In fact, the state is required to pay at that level whether or not they have the prisoners. That's written in the contract. So then there's the incentive for the state to send those folks. So you do see this tension there in terms of what we think of as the purpose of corrections, and then a whole other set of criteria that's decided by shareholders for corporations that in many cases aren't even based in the state where the facilities are.